Are you considering making a move to Baltimore, Maryland? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you 7 items that you need to make sure that you know and consider before you decide to move to Baltimore, Maryland. Hi, I'm Persia. I'm a local Maryland realtor, and I'm here to give you all of the information on living, working, and thriving in Baltimore, Maryland, and its surrounding areas. I'm a local Maryland realtor, and I've been doing this for 4 years, helping people just like you who are thinking about making a move to Baltimore, and I absolutely love what I do. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell for notifications so that you will be looped in as soon as all of the newest content comes out on the channel. As I mentioned, I've been doing this for 4 years, helping folks just like you relocate to Maryland. So whether you're looking to move in 9 days or 90 days, make sure to call me, text me, send me an email. We can schedule a Zoom call, but it would be my absolute pleasure to help you make a smooth move to Baltimore. Okay, so let's get into today's topic, which is things that you need to consider and know about before moving to Baltimore, Maryland. I have to start the video out by saying that I am a transplant to Baltimore, Maryland. I'm originally from North Carolina, from the Triangle area of North Carolina, and so I decided to move to the city. I got my first job out of college here, and have never left like 16 years later. So obviously Baltimore has gotten a hold of me and my heart, but you know, I do have to let people know Baltimore is not necessarily for everybody. And so it's important to know these things before you make your decision on whether Baltimore is the best place for you to move. So I want to start out with chatting about Baltimore's cost of living. And this is something I've talked about in other videos, particularly when it comes to home prices. But I would say that Baltimore is higher on average than some other places just because East Coast cities tend to be more expensive than like Midwest towns and things like that, and some southern areas as well. But I will say when it comes to East Coast cities, Baltimore is more affordable than other areas like New York, like DC, and still kind of has that East Coast flavor. So I would say cost of living is definitely something to know about and to consider. One thing that is really important to know is that the average home price in Baltimore is around $300,000, but that's because it spans everywhere from, you know, row houses that are boarded up and that need a lot of work, all the way up to, you know, multi-million dollar mansions and everything in between. So that average price point is going to be kind of dependent on where you end up wanting to live in the city. Also, it's important to know that with inventory in Baltimore being so low, I mean, nationwide inventory is super low, but with inventory being low, we have seen property prices and property values increasing steadily over the past few years. So property values have increased anywhere from 4% in a little bit less desirable areas, all the way up to 20% in the areas where people are really, really wanting to live and purchase homes. So it's important to know that because these are predicted to continue to rise because we are continuing to deal with an inventory shortage. So it's important to know that yes, Baltimore is affordable, but those home prices are going up and may be a little bit less affordable in the future. Another thing to know about cost of living in Baltimore is that Baltimore City has the highest tax rate in the state of Maryland. And so this is really important to know, and a lot of people take this into consideration because people will notice that property taxes on houses in Baltimore City is a lot higher than it is in other neighboring counties. Just for an example, Baltimore County, which is the neighboring county to Baltimore City, has a 2.83% tax rate, whereas Baltimore City has a 3.2% tax rate. So this is important to know for your property taxes and things like that, to know that Baltimore City has the highest taxes in the state. Okay, the second factor to think about is the job market. And a lot of my clients who are moving from other areas are doing so because they've gotten jobs in the area. And the job market in Baltimore is actually quite robust and varied. Baltimore has traditionally been known for shipping, manufacturing, for steel production, for automotive manufacturing, but recently Forbes has noted that Baltimore is one of the most up-and-coming locations for technology startups, which I think is really interesting. Other key industries in the area include biosciences, healthcare, and education. One of the things that I've noticed is a lot of my clients who come from other places are actually professors, and they're moving here to work at places like Johns Hopkins University, and so there are a lot of education jobs that are prevalent in this area. Okay, let's talk about transportation in Baltimore. Driving around is the primary way that people get from here to there in Baltimore. So it's not absolutely necessary to have a car, but most folks in this area do. And one thing to know about driving in Baltimore is that Baltimore area drivers, I would say, are not the best drivers. You might get into some fender benders or have some people who are just not the smartest on the road. So from my experience driving in Baltimore, you do have to make sure to keep your head on a swivel and be aware of what other people are doing, because Baltimore does have some crazy drivers. Another thing I've noticed is that because of the fact that Baltimore city drivers are not the best, premiums for car insurance tend to be a little bit higher in Baltimore City than they are in Baltimore County, I guess just because of the liability and the fact that accidents are more prevalent in the city than they are in the county. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. When it comes to public transportation, the Maryland Transportation Authority manages a bus system in Baltimore. It manages a light rail system, which is an above ground train, and it manages a metro underground system. So those are three options that you have if you choose to rely on public transportation rather than having your own vehicle. In addition to these options, there's also a MARC train system, which is a train rail system, which is actually really great, and it's a very convenient way to get to Washington, D.C., especially for people like me who do not like to drive to D.C. So the MARC train gives you a direct route there, and it's actually really affordable to take the train. I believe it's maybe like $7 each way. Might be more than that at this point, but it's very affordable. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room, shall we? Which is crime. We all know that Baltimore is associated with crime, and I think that has a lot to do with just its portrayal in the media, as well as popular TV shows like The Wire, and that's just what people associate Baltimore with. I've had so many people ask me over the years, like, why do you choose Baltimore? Is it safe living in Baltimore? Are you free to walk around? Like, are you scared all the time? It's also a question that I get a lot of times from clients who are moving outside of Maryland or outside of Baltimore, who kind of want to know where the quote unquote safe areas are for them to live. And I completely understand that. Everybody kind of has this association with Baltimore. And I think for a lot of people, they just think that you walk outside and could be gunned down or could be robbed, but that really isn't the case. Like most urban areas, there are violent crimes that happen, there are property crimes that happen, and so crime is a reality here, but it's not happening everywhere, it's not happening all the time. And in fact, I just heard an interview with the current mayor of Baltimore on NPR that was chatting about how violent crime rates are down, so that's a good thing. The one thing that I will say that I've heard from a lot of people about what's been happening recently is about property crime, specifically that the level of arson is up for some reason. So people setting fire to houses and property is up. And then also property theft is up. For example, car thefts are up. You might have heard on TikTok of the Kia boys or the Hyundai boys that are targeting those brand of cars, Kias and Hyundais, because they're easier to steal. And so that certainly has been an issue here with people who own those vehicles and them being stolen. But the city has been doing a number of interventions to try to alleviate that problem. My suggestion when thinking about moving to the city and what neighborhoods are safe and where you want to be is just to make sure to look up Baltimore crime data online from a reputable source. The Baltimore City Police Department has a crime data map that you can look up, and you can see sort of where crime is happening, the interventions and the programs that they're doing, so that you can be best informed about where is safe, where you might not feel comfortable, and can make your housing decisions accordingly. Okay, let's talk about nightlife and culture. Something to know about Baltimore is that the Inner Harbor is kind of the most touristy area in the city. And so in my experience, like once you've been to Baltimore once, you really don't go to the Inner Harbor a lot. Most people who are local, who are from around here, do not spend their time or party very much in the Inner Harbor. There are attractions down there which are fun kind of to go your first few times, like Power Plant Live is a music venue with restaurants and different bars that's, you know, all in close proximity. You have the National Aquarium, which is very popular for a lot of visitors to the city. Other attractions are the Reginald F. Lewis Museum, which is kind of in that Inner Harbor downtown area, which is, I would highly recommend going to check that out. But again, the Inner Harbor is kind of a tourist trap. So there are definitely other areas of the city that you might want to check out and explore if being around a bunch of tourists is not what you're looking to do. If you're looking to explore bars and restaurants that are outside of that touristy area and have more of a local flavor or feel, my favorite neighborhoods for bars and restaurants in the city are Charles Village, Fells Point, Mount Vernon, Federal Hill. All of those are going to give you Remington. I mean, I have so many places that I enjoy kind of going out and checking out. But if you don't want to be around a bunch of tourists, Station North, they're all popping in my head. But if you don't want to be in a really touristy area, there are plenty of places in the city that have an interesting vibe, bars, restaurants that you can check out and feel part of the city. Okay, the sixth aspect that you should know before moving to Baltimore, Maryland is that this town is bird city. People here absolutely love their birds, the ravens and the orioles, and it's very apparent as you go throughout the city how invested people are in their sports teams. The Baltimore Ravens right now, according to people, are doing really, really well. I am not a football fan, don't tell anybody, but the Ravens are huge. I have friends who every single Sunday are just glued to their TVs and love to watch the games. And then the Baltimore Orioles, I've been to a few games. I've never been to a Ravens game, but I've been to a few Orioles games, and it's just as fanatical. People absolutely love the Orioles, and I think this past season they did a really good job, I think. So Bird City, definitely know your sports and know if you're coming from another town with other sports teams, you might face some challenges and resistance because people here are all about their birds. Okay, and last on the list that I think you should know before you move to Baltimore, Maryland is that there is so much diversity in the city, and that's part of why I absolutely love living in Baltimore. Baltimore is diverse, it has room for everybody. You go to neighborhoods like Highlandtown, Fells Point, you will see a big Latino Hispanic community, which is amazing, from El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, from everywhere. There is a big African population. Obviously there's Black people, there's white people, there's Asian people, Indian people. So I think that the diversity is one of my favorite things about living, and I think people kind of concerned about where should I move, and you know, is there going to be enough diversity? Am I going to fit in if I'm from this place or that place? And I think that that's the good part about Baltimore, is that there is room for everyone. One of my favorite things is going out and about, maybe, you know, in some of the neighborhoods that I mentioned, and hearing people speaking other languages. There is food represented from every country here. So it's really a place that is a melting pot, and one where you definitely can fit in no matter who you are. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, Baltimore is not going to be for everyone. It is a gritty city. It has its pros and its cons. I have another video, pros and cons video of living in Baltimore, that you can watch if you want more information on that. But overall, I have to say, I absolutely love Baltimore, grit and all. It's been an absolutely amazing place for me to live thus far. I have no plans of leaving anytime soon. And so if you are thinking of making a move to Baltimore, please make sure that you reach out to me. Again, you can call me, you can text me, you can email me, we can schedule a Zoom call, and we can figure out the best way for you to make an easy transition to Baltimore. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye!